Recently, I was running a meeting in Denver, Colorado with a group of CEOs and GMs and commercial leaders. And we're having a really interesting question about AI and just how rapidly the world of AI is changing. And more importantly, the implications of all those changes for the B2B commercial landscape. And the conversation started, as you might expect, with all the interesting ways in which AI could increase productivity on the sales side or help salespeople become more effective or more productive. But at some point, one of the GMs in the room raised a really incredibly interesting point that sort of at least reframed my thinking and got me realizing I need to spend more time thinking about AI from this perspective. Because the question you put on the table is not so much what can we do with AI, but rather what can our customers do with AI? Or perhaps even more urgently, what are they doing with AI right now? Because there's no question, of course, we all know that customers are doing research on their own. They're doing their due diligence long before they ever pick up the phone or reach out through whatever channel to sales reps to get their input on whatever it is they're doing. And of course, one of the tools they now have available to them to make that or to do that kind of research, to conduct that kind of work to is in fact AI. And it really starts to become pretty interesting when you start thinking about what might they do with that new toolbox that is now available to them. Because imagine you go to whether it's Chat GPT or any of the other number of tools that are emerging rather rapidly, and they can start asking questions like, who are the top three suppliers of solution X, and how do those suppliers compare with each other? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? How do they compare on price? Why should I buy one versus the other? Now read all that back to me in the voice of Morgan Freeman, right? I mean, the sky is literally the limit of what you could do with this stuff. And it really raises an interesting question of what's going to happen when our customers come to the table with their views already skewed towards what they think is right based on what some algorithm has taught them to be true, or at least has led them to believe what might be true. And in this world, it's kind of interesting to think about because whatever that analysis comes back with may or may not be accurate. In some cases, it'll probably be very accurate. In some cases, it'll be completely inaccurate. In some cases, probably many, it's going to omit information altogether because that information was never loaded into whatever algorithm or database the algorithm is pulling from. And so here you may look at whatever your customer learns and say, well, that's not right, or that's not true, or there's a better way to think about it. But notice you're already on your back foot. You're already in a defensive posture trying to defend yourself against what they perceive to be accurate, or at least, if not the truth, then at least a convincing perspective based on what they've learned from their own due diligence. And it's it's one of those things where methinks thou doth protest too much when you start arguing against it. And I think I can imagine ourselves all winding up some pretty frustrating conversations. But here's the interesting thing is there's no adjudication board for any of this. It's not like you can go to some company and say, I question the results that this AI has generated regarding my company. That doesn't exist right now. So we're kind of all takers on this stuff. We're not makers unless we go create our own AI model, I suppose. And so I think at the very least, it becomes critically important and urgently important that we all have a better understanding of what these models are likely to output with regards to us and our market and our competition and our capabilities and the context within which we sell, and even the range of problems that customers, and how to understand the range of problems that customers might see our solution providing an answer toward. If you're not playing with AI yet, this is a good reason to start, because these are the perspectives our customers are going to increasingly have coming to the table. It reminds me a little bit of the mid 1990s when Google first hit the scene. And at least for those of us around then and working as professionals, one of the first things we all did is like, we're going to Google our name to see how we show up and how we present in the internet. And then you find out, and you think, how did that get there? I don't even remember saying or doing that, right? And out of that particular reality rose an entire industry called SEO, or search engine optimization, where marketers all over the world learned very quickly, as best as they could, how to manipulate their own websites or change their own web presence such that they created an advantage for themselves in the results of those search engines. I don't know that that's actually going to be an option here with AI, but someone may figure it out, and out of that will rise another industry. But for now, at the very least, is a good understanding of how these engines work at the highest level, or at least of the kinds of output they're likely to create and the kinds of queries their customers are likely to put against them, and begin to strategize how are we going to engage customers in conversations within the context of those results that they've already generated. Something to think about. Stay tuned, everyone.